Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy King Bean, and welcome back to another show, another video, and a brand new episode. And yo, just want to let everybody out there know that you're now rocking with the best. Word up. Yo, shout out to everybody who watched the last video. I really appreciate it. And yo, thanks for, to all the new subscribers. Shout out to you guys. I really appreciate that. I always appreciate you subscribers. Now, get the word out. Go ahead and like the video, share the video, comment on the video. You know what I mean? Just go ahead and interact. I really would appreciate that. Well, anyway, without further ado, I kind of want to get into a topic that I was thinking about in these past few days, in between these last videos, ever since I've been playing this Batman game. I've been playing this Batman game like crazy, guys. I've been playing it a lot. I'm almost done with the story. It's been very, very good. And what I've been thinking about with this game is how important is storytelling in a video game. Now, I asked that question because I've heard over the years how most people don't care about the storytelling in the game. They don't care about the story. They just want to get in there and just play the game. Just play the game. Just play the game. Just play the game. Which I get that. I understand that. I grew up in an era when games first was hitting mainstream in the early 80s. I played Atari and of course played Nintendo, and most of the games that came out, you kind of just pop the cartridge in and you just play to get to whatever goal, and it was fun. The first game to kind of deviate from that, and I'm just talking consoles specifically because I didn't grow up playing PC games, so just talking about consoles specifically, if I can say that word. The Legend of Zelda was different, especially when it first came out, because it was a weird game. I don't want to say it was a weird game. It was just a weird concept at the time for us to grasp. It was an adventure role-playing game, if you will, and it had a story to it. You did have to end up saving the princess, but it had more of a story and a background to it versus, say, something like Super Mario Brothers, rather. So while I'm sitting at work thinking about this, the first game that I played that really had an impact on me outside of Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers was Final Fantasy IV, and I love that game. That was my first foray into a real, true to life Japanese RPG, and I think I beat that game twice. But one thing I do remember about that game is the story. Now I don't remember all the details now, since I haven't played that game in 20 plus years. Wow, that's a long time. It's a long time, guys. But I haven't played that game in 20 plus years. But at the time, for years, it left an impact on me when it came to gaming. That games were more than just, hey, kill said enemy. You had a motivation of why you have to kill the enemy, or why you have to save the empire, or what have you. And I remember beating that game twice, and I remember it was just that good. I remember my cousin used to come over and watch me play it, and he couldn't stand RPGs, but he really enjoyed watching me play that game, and he really enjoyed the story mode of the game as we were reading the text. Now, you fast forward now into this generation in gaming, which I find it was kind of funny, because let's say, just for instance, like a game like Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first one and the second one had a very big impact on me. Those are only games from Call of Duty that I do remember the stories from. Albeit vaguely, but I do remember the stories from them pretty much. But Call of Duty is now known more for the multiplayer and the big set pieces in the campaign. So gamers, for one time in a year, was complaining that nobody plays the campaign in Call of Duty. Nobody cares about the story in Call of Duty. Let me go ahead and just get into the multiplayer and just play. So long and behold, a game like Titanfall comes out. They strip you of the campaign play. They still charge you the $60. Now the $60, I don't want that to play a point in this discussion, but if you want to use it, that's fine. I thoroughly understand that. But when they strip you of the campaign, gamers complain about it not having a campaign, because you didn't have a motivation of why you were in these Titans and why you guys were fighting. So on one hand, being a gamer, we are very spoiled. If we don't get the same stuff that we used to getting, then we complain. Then if we get what we want, then we complain. But that's neither here nor there. But this is why I think storytelling in gaming is very important. How it really impacts on how you feel about a game. Like I said, a game like Titanfall, it was just multiplayer only. It didn't last very long. A game like Evolve was another game that didn't really last very long because it didn't really give you a story, a motivation of why you're doing what you're doing. Although you do know practically why you're doing what you're doing in a game like that, it just didn't give you any motivation. Games like The Witcher 3, I would tell you right now, get a chance to, if you haven't played The Witcher 3, you should get The Witcher 3. The gameplay is not the greatest in the world, but it's not terrible, but it's not the greatest in the world. But one thing it does have, and it has the absolute best stories going on in any game. It does. The side quests can take you hours and you are fully invested on why you're doing what you're doing. And it has an impact on you when you're playing this game. So it makes you feel, makes you have feelings for the game, or, you know, you feel the game. You really do feel that game. The game now, like Metal Gear, while it took such a big hit from Kojima gave the people what they've been asking for, because Metal Gear Solid 4 was full of cutscenes and stories trying to wrap up the story, and people didn't like it. That was one of my favorite games of all time. I love Metal Gear Solid 4. I loved it. I watched every cutscene. The cutscenes sometimes were an hour long. I think someone was up to 2 hours, 2+ hours in a cutscene. But to me, it was great. It was more of a movie than it was a game. Somewhat like, just like Heavy Rain. I enjoyed Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was more of a movie than a game. It was more like 80% movie, 20% game. But when Kojima did this with Metal Gear 5, and although I love Metal Gear 5, and I know I keep going right back to this in almost every video, the gameplay vastly improved. But what people were complaining about the most, outside of the game not being fully finished, what they complained about the most, there wasn't that Kojima style of storytelling in a video game. So people were complaining about that. Although they complained about 4 not having enough storytelling. But I think storytelling is very important on how, not only just for the motivation of why you're doing what you're doing, it builds relationships between the characters. You begin to care about the characters. You begin to care about what's happening in the game. You're really invested, like you're watching a movie or you're reading a book. One of the best examples and one of the best companies that do that storytelling is BioWare. And Mass Effect 2, to me, was one of the best games I've ever played, because of the stories that you develop with each and every character when you went out and did their side missions. The game wasn't that hard. It was an RPG shooter basically. But when you sat there and you built these relationships with these characters, it was more of an impact when one of them died. It made you feel something from an artificial intelligence. That's why people were so upset at the end of Mass Effect 3 and how the game ended. All that time you put in invested in a game in Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, it didn't pay off at the end. People didn't care if you got a good ending or a bad ending or a neutral ending. It was just ended really sucky. It was open-ended and it was terrible, because all your decisions didn't matter really what you did. But the journey through the game was beautiful. It made you feel something. When Morton died, spoiler alert, when Morton died in part 3, you understood why he died, and you understood the connection to you and your character and to the little troll looking people, what have you. You understood how big of his sacrifice was. It made you feel something. You know, it made you really feel when a character died. And also with storytelling in a game, one thing that I do, like when I'm at work, I'm such a big nerd. My coworker there, she's not into video games at all. But one thing she told me, she said, Bean, I like the way you have passion for a game when I'm telling them what's going on in a story. She's like, she can care less about the game, but when I talk about the game, I'm telling what's going on, what my decisions are, or what I've had to do in the game, and explaining it. She's really interested in what I have to say. Now, if I'm talking to another game, I could tell you about the mechanics and you'll get it. But overall, when you're telling somebody about a game, about the impact that it's having on you and how you relate to that game and why you love that game, you tell them about the story and what's happening. My man Smasher was saying the same thing to me when it came to his mom. His mom said the same thing to him. She's not into video games, but the way he talks about the game, she loves to listen to him about storytelling in games. So for me, the perfect balance of storytelling in games, it could be 70, 30, really 65, 35, 50, 50, or 60, 40. either way. Now, don't get me wrong, the gameplay has to be really good, but storytelling to me is highly important. It's highly key to how you feel about a game, how you will remember a game, and how you will, have great nostalgia for a game. For example, like I've never played Final Fantasy VII. Now I did, like I said, I played Final Fantasy IV, but I've never played Final Fantasy VII. I'm just not into the Final Fantasy stuff anymore. But that game left a lasting impact on a lot of gamers, and you can see them talk about Final Fantasy VII as being the greatest Final Fantasy game that was ever made. Just like Kingdom Hearts. That's why the people can't wait to see Kingdom Hearts 3. It's not all about the gameplay mechanics, because most of every game have good mechanics, but it's always the story in the game that brings you back. Now that's the same thing like in life, man. If you look at life in general, it's always about storytelling. Even when you love the greatest rappers, this is why I love the 90s rap scene so much. It's all they had some of the greatest storytellers in rap music. When Biggie would tell a story, when Pac would tell a story, when Nas would tell a story, when Jay-Z would tell a story, when Eazy-E would tell a story, when NWA would tell a story, when Outkast would tell a story. Those are the songs that resonated with you, that you can actually, identify with. And that's why I think storytelling in video games is just as important as gameplay in video games. I think they have a place, and I think that you should really appreciate the storytelling aspect of a game, and that should never detract from a game. That I at least I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? You can't just have one without the other. Like another quick example before we close out the video was Gears of War for me. Gears of War 1, I love Gears of War 1. It was, to me, at the time when it came out, it was the greatest game since sliced bread. But as time went on and the gameplay fell back, when I mean it fell back, it wasn't up to what the modern shooter is now. I still played it for part 2 and part 3 because I wanted to wrap up the storyline, because I had a connection with Dom, I had a connection with Marcus, I had a connection with the Gears family, and that's why I wanted to complete that game. So anyway, I've said a lot and I talked a lot. I hope I wanted to put some more in the video, but I don't want to make the video too long. So guys, tell me what you think about storytelling. Do you think storytelling is important in video games, or do you think, what, screw it, just give me the game and let me play? I would love to hear your comments below, or rather read your comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that share button, and I'll holler at you dudes later. One love. Peace.